Hello, welcome guys. Hi guys, today is still the CBL knockout stage, and today we have joined by Josh, a team member from ECL. Hi Josh, can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you loud and clear. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, Josh. We also really honored to have Josh here to be presented in our CBL because, they are really professional players in CBL, and hope that they can bring you more professional ideas on the CBL. So today, still the knockout stage of CBL, and for today's cast, we have ING versus OISU, and the second game will be BOD versus BZZW. Yeah, and 4 teams today, and they are already the top 8 in this time CBL.
Yeah, and it'd be exciting to see what we have coming out from these teams. Obviously, ING are the returning Nebbies champions from the mainland service, so we have a lot to expect from them.
Yeah.
Really, really fun to watch their play style, as it's a little bit different to what we're used to in Asia, as well as obviously the classics that we've seen a lot of the returning players from previous CBL seasons.
Yeah, definitely. And ING, because today is the lower bracket from this CBL, so ING, I believe they have only lost 1 game to CNC. So let's see the ban pick from both 2 sides.
Yeah, and as we can see here, ING, as we've talked about previously, they're choosing to ban out the Hidden City as a lot of the mainland servers are not familiar with them.
Yeah.
And choosing Huring in a mirror match up here. Actually, a really interesting ban coming out through ING is actually the Imperial Spear Guards, as well as the Mammalions and the sorry, it's a bit of a mouthful.
Yes.
Samachi and Stalwarts as well. Obviously, really heavily prioritising getting rid of those shield units and allowing themselves to use those grenadiers to really just disrupt all the pikes that we're probably going to be seeing.
Yeah. So let's see the map ban pick first. So for ING, they actually have a bigger number, so they got to choose the map first. And both 2 teams, they choose the map Hilongfield as the attacking map. And for the unit ban pick, they protect the Shenji Grenadians in Hilongfield. And for the OISU, the Japanese team, they chose the Shield Maidens to be remained in the game. Yeah, you know that, Josh, you actually didn't participate in this time's CBL in ECL, right? But
yeah, not this time around.
Yeah, but I believe that you can feel the excitement in the map and the unit ban pick stage already, because your strategy already start before the game start, right?
Yeah, absolutely, especially with this pick and ban phase that we've now introduced this season. It seems like it's a way to almost telegraph what you're trying to do, or what you're trying to approach, or even as a way to throw people off. We've seen on occasions with a few bans being thrown out there just to kind of bait your opponents into thinking what's coming.
Yeah. So for Hilongfield, I believe that ING, they have won the game with NOP in the map Hilongfield. So I'm actually looking forward to their performance.
Yeah, correct. We also saw OSIU also on healing as well, and we've seen that they're quite fond of their cavalry. I was kind of interested to see that there wasn't actually any cavalry bans coming through for ING, but maybe they've got a game plan ahead just to try to figure out, hey, this is how we're going to handle it.
Yeah, and it's kind of a strange and also interesting thing that a lot of teams from China's mainland, they're quite good at using cavalries. So really looking forward to the performance.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top in that cavalry versus cavalry battle.
Yeah. So the game will be start in 5 minutes. Hi guys, welcome to join the stream. We have a lot of new audience joining the stream, so a little notice for you guys. Today is also the knockout stage for the CBL, and today we have like a cast of 4 teams: ING, ORSU, BOD, and BZZW. They are already the top 8 in this time CBL, and we have Josh to join today's casting. So really honored to have him here. And the game will be start really soon.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to seeing some good games here out of what have been 2 really good performing teams.
Yeah.
With ING obviously being quite stellar in their games, and OSU putting up a lot of fight in theirs as well.
Yeah, so the first game is already starting, and ING will be the attacking team first.
Yeah.
Let's
As
see
we
the
can see here,
lineup.
actually.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention that on the side of OSIU, we see a lot of cavalry once again. Seems
Yeah.
like they really do favour that as their way of attacking, as well as defending, which is interesting. You don't see this much cav spam usually on a defense, whereas ING have come with a bit more of a traditional approach, I'd say,
Yeah.
using a lot of golds, but quite spread out between different types of units that they bring.
Yeah. And also for OISU, they brought more like 4 tiers cavalries and a lot of infantry, so like most teams will do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the game is about to start.
Something else of note here is obviously it's always open to be changed, but we can see here a lot of OSIU are opting into bringing those grape shots in initially.
Yeah.
So it looks like they really are going to try to bunker down on that A point, unless we see obviously a different approach once the battle begins, but that seems to be what they're hinting at.
In the game start, ING, they are attacking the point A and B at the same time.
Yeah, and this is a pretty common strategy we see from a lot of the teams. What is also pretty common actually is to see a switch from the B point over straight onto A, using it as sort of a diversion. We saw that actually from one of our contestants today, BZZW did it quite a bit in their Huling matches. So that's always something to keep in mind when you're on the defender's side.
Yeah.
First blood.
Okay, the gate already been broken, and the wall also already destroyed so far. Really went smoothly for ING. They got
Yeah, and I
ready.
really like this. I really like this approach from them, actually opening up both breaches as well, making sure that all their options are available to them.
Yeah.
Means that the defenders really can't relax because one of their flanks is always open, as we see the Shenji pushing through on the left-hand side of B.
Oh, they're already like move quickly and through the gate near the point B.
Mm-hmm.
Share the
And I like
maidens.
this style. Yeah, I like this style coming out of ING here. They're actually moving a lot faster than what we traditionally see them. They usually have quite a cautious, very heavy-handed approach where they force you out. But right now, they're going for a lot of momentum, setting up artillery on that high ground.
Yeah. And in previous CBLs, we have seen so many teams that took a lot of hesitations in attacking, like which points to choose and to attack. And for ING, it seems like it is not even a problem for them. They just quickly all went through and go to the point B.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else to note as well, as we obviously see it over on the A side, is them sending a few people through, not committing anything, but just making sure the defenders can't solely focus on this B push to get it shut down.
Yeah, kind of strategy to really distract your enemy here.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else really important to note as well is that OSIU have invested pretty heavily already in their artillery on this B point. They've used already almost half of their total artillery. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see ING just kind of try to bait and switch, go around them essentially, and go for the A point now from behind if they can use that little cutaway bridge there. Something really important as well as we see a couple of the hussars of OSIU just hiding on those flanks, doing their job, what they should be doing, essentially fishing for the flank when we're going to see that A push coming through, as well as obviously the B side. It's a little bit trickier to use them there as it's very, very heavily congested as they're now pushing in.
All defenders all waved in to the point B, point 8.
A lot of damage being done with those cavalry units there on the B side, as well as an Imperial Pike unit just behind it to follow up with an advance.
Already chaotic and brutal fights of inventories. And for now, seems like the red team are at the upper hand. They successfully just captured the point.
Yeah, it's proving quite tricky for OSIU to use that cav, as we saw there a few units of halberds were already set up, ready to go, and they've shut down those dagger axe lancers as they've come through. As now we see a quick push over to the A side, which I love here, not letting any kind of slow down, any kind of build up. They're just trying to leverage that advantage they had on B and win both points quickly.
A walk in the park.
So for the defender side, they just quickly retreat from the point A as well, because defending there might just cause more loss.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised actually if we see them go for more of a base heavy defense here, as we see like C can be pretty costly as that Treb comes through and cleans up that unit of blue halberds there on the point. It really is dependent on how you choose to set up. You can either set up to defend the C point specifically, or to try to guard that supply and guard home base, and it seems like they're kind of opting into a bit of both right now.
Yep. Wow, ING, they're just seeking their opportunities. Down the point C, already building mortars.
Still with a healthy amount of mortars left. They've got 16 in the bank still to be used, so setting up these here as a threat to push them off the C absolutely is a good option.
Oh, a nice hit.
Yeah, as we can see, actually, they're using... This is pretty smart play here from OSIU. They're actually using some farmers up there. Just trying to bait some treb shots, essentially. Save their units for later. I'm assuming that's a double golden cav player, as we saw a couple of them on their team. Just trying to absorb whatever kind of shots they can to waste that artillery.
Yep. Also sending farmers down the stairs to do some extra damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, any good damage is good damage, right?
Yep.
See here from ING, it's really, really well rehearsed with these artillery placements. They're getting absolutely an enormous amount of damage done. To the point where now you see OSIU are just falling back entirely, which I think is the correct and smarter play to make.
Yeah, and the coastal points and also the support point that they are just capturing them now, and the defender seems not really, paying attention to it.
Yeah, I almost wouldn't be surprised to see if this was a bit of a bait, because we can see a lot of that cav hiding up on that home point, ready to charge down those stairs at a moment's notice. So we'll have to wait and see if this is in fact trying to lure them in, bait them in, and then clean them up with the cav, or if it is just a conceding that point and going for home base only.
Our reinforcements are attacking from the harbour.
And actually some great mortars from the defender side here as well, lobbing into that big blob there. We saw a big amount of damage being done.
Yeah.
And any kind of damage here is really important because it's a long way back to that supply point. So
Yep.
really, really valuable shots coming out here from the mortars.
Yeah, really nice position of those mortars built by OISU.
So we see them exchanging fire now, obviously with ING, both teams doing a lot of damage to each other. But like I mentioned, it's a long trip back for ING and it's only just next to them for OSIU, so it tends to be the more valuable side for them. Although ING does have the number of artillery advantage here.
Yeah.
God, that's some devastating artillery coming out of ING now. You can see how well rehearsed they are on this map. They're absolutely nailing it, shutting down all the artillery now for the defenders. And it really does seem like their best option would be now to fall back, as they've almost exhausted all the artillery now. Only 2 of them left on the attacker side, well 1 as I speak, on the attacker side left.
Yep. And for ING, they're really organized and they keep pushing forward to the supply point.
Yeah, this is what we've come to see from ING and expect, really, is these calculated pushes where they kind of whittle you down, saying, hey, we're going to outplace you on artillery. We're going to make sure we leverage any kind of slow advantage we can. We're going to push you out with a slow war of attrition.
Well, after that chamber shot, they just weaved in to the supply point.
That's it, a lot of cav coming in. I like this back flank as well from these Hussars potentially as an option, but it seems like he's opting in for the front charge instead.
Yep. So both 2 sides, sending coverage, trying at each other.
Yeah. On the side of ING, we do have a lot of halberds set up here though, and you can see them doing a lot of effect, but they don't have enough, it turns out, as this cavalry's pulled absolutely through.
Yeah.
See just how many cavalry OSIU really does love to bring. Seems to have worked out for them on this push.
Oh, OISU really nailed this wave of defense. Only 3 alive heroes from the ING side. It's kind of like give them a better advantage in the end of the game.
Yeah. Something really important is the factor that we already have 6 3 deaths on the defender's side, though. That is going to weigh into this pretty heavily. But to be fair, on the side of the attackers of ING, we've got 11 on 2 deaths already as well, which is pretty concerning for them. They need to tighten up their play and make sure that they don't have any more people falling victim to that really now. I actually like this play from ING, just opting to be aggressive here, push up the stairs and use their trebs that they have left. They have 6 left in the bank. And it's going to make a huge effect here as we see that there's already a discrepancy in units. They have a lot more gold units still left, about 2 units larger between the whole team, which is a big difference maker when it comes to those late game fights.
So ING's coverage in Hussars all charged in to the final base. Oh, soon it just overwhelmed the ground.
Absolutely, we saw Hussars, we also saw Monastics coming through as well, which is an exciting unit to see. We don't get to see that one too often.
Yeah.
And obviously followed up by the iconic like seasonal unit, I would almost call it, with the Dagger Axes this season being so relevant, so powerful.
Wow. It's really a daunting charging from the ING side. It's just like organized one wave and really calculated really well and just nailed the game really quickly. So congrats to ING. They won the first round. So let's see the MVP from both sides.
Yep. I might leave the names to you. I'm a little bit out of my depth on that front.
Yeah.
But as we see over here with the MVP of ING, we see quite a hell of a performance. It's got a lot of gold cleanups there, a lot of the shield maidens, halberds, Dagger Axes, Reapers, all the important units you want to see gone is obviously done well in handling them. But something to note is that there is a really even spread out all over ING. A lot of them are contributing very similar amounts to the damage that they're doing. It just shows how well of a uniform team they are.
Yeah. Also, OISU, the Japanese team, they did quite a good job. I see a lot of hero deaths and the contribution to the whole team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially coming in from our top performer over in OSIU, they did a really good job of shutting down a lot of those Varangian guards, which are quite a troublesome unit if you let them set up and actually get what they want to get done. But then we see a ton of blue halberds being killed as well from him, as we see a lot of them coming out of ING, taking that more traditional style of units with the 4-4-3 setup. Yeah. It's a lot more common. Yeah.
So congrats to ING, the previous champion from China's mainland division. They win the first round.
Coming into the second round, I actually don't know what I expect out of OSIU here. Obviously, something needs to be shaken up a little bit. It seems like they kind of fallen into the same trap as we saw them earlier fall into, where they trade a lot of their cavalry. They might win the fight, but they take a lot of losses. It's quite hard to recover after that point.
You know, when defending the supply point on the up highland, they defended OISU. They actually did quite a good job in defending the point. They just overwhelmed the ground with the infantries and the one charge of cavalry. They just nailed down the point. But ING, they just soon, you know, just came back and organized a really nice and calculated charge. So no wonder, like, they are the champion in like previous China's division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I was just going to say a little discrepancy to note as well is that we saw the style of OSIU is quite, like, they're leaning on their team to hold a lot longer than we saw out of ING. A lot of their cav players are waiting for the perfect opportunity, then charging down eventually to get the maximum amount of damage done. Whereas with ING, it seems like they kind of bog you down with infantry and almost instantaneously try to overwhelm you with their cavalry. It's a lot faster of play style. And it seems like they're losing less of their troops because of that. And how about you personally? Out of these two teams, is there any kind of units or any kind of thing that you favour that you'd like to see pulled out here? Anything that excites you about the kind of unit choices that could be relevant?
Yeah, I prefer the games that both two teams brought a lot of coverage, because you know the game will be just more brutal, and you can see how both two teams they operate and use their coverage at the same time. Because it just, I believe that the cavalry, they are they actually show more how good you are good at using the units. So, yeah, cavalry, they always bring us a good performance of the CBL.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a really good mark of a great player is the difference between somebody being able to throw their cavalry in, as anybody can do, and be semi-effective. Or those players that you see that are exceptional with their control and can really get punishing charges off, like you're speaking about. It's always fun to see the kind of match up there. Yeah,
and you know, actually in this time CBL, we are kind of sad to see that ECL, they just couldn't make it to the knockout stage, because you know the group you guys seeing are kind of like difficult. They got so many powerful teams, so you guys are just so close to get promoted, but yeah. Just kind of upset, but yeah. Do you have your team members just tell you like which teams they met in this time CBL and what kind of things they remember?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of them were pretty devastated when they didn't make it out of their group stage, because I know a lot of them have really high expectations and aspirations, as most of us do when we compete in the CBL. Now, a team that obviously had to come up with CNC, right? When you have them in your group, there's kind of no way of avoiding that. That's a pretty daunting task, but I know a lot of them also welcome the opportunity to battle against CNT. I mean, it's the best competition you're going to get, as we've seen year and year and year after again. So we value that kind of practice. We value that kind of experience. We maybe would have preferred to meet them a little bit further down the line, though. That maybe would have been a bit better. But I know the boys are going to be hungry to come back the next season and really compete again.
Yeah, sure. We'll wait you guys in next time CBL, and we're really looking forward to your performance. And actually, you guys have like a huge fan base in the English community. So also our community manager really appreciate you guys. So just welcome back in next time CBL. So, and the second game is about to start soon, and Josh will still be casting with us and present you the best narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least try my best to
Yeah.
go with that. Now, something I've instantly spotted here actually is on the side of ING. We've seen it a few times now. It's very uncommon, but we do see it every once in a while. We see a huntsman unit being brought out, which is a personal favorite of mine. I'm a big dog person in my own life, in personal life, and I love seeing them brought onto the battlefield as well. So that's an exciting unit for me to see there.
Whoa.
As we see a ton of purples coming through for ING, as well as also for OSIU on this flip side. A lot less gold cav here.
Yeah. So this time, OISU, they will be the attacker. They brought more infantries and pikemen in this round.
Yeah, and something that's been interesting to see the development of is we've seen Imperial Pike Guards kind of come a little bit more back into the meta, obviously very sparingly. We only see a couple of them every game now, but that was a unit that was basically seen as inferior to most of the other pikes, as it is when it sets up. But you can see those huge game-charging advances. I know Dex, obviously, from ECL, also talks about how much he loves that unit, because it really does feel game-changing when you get a big advance off onto the enemies.
Imperial Guards also a lot of our team members like to use Imperial Guards in our daily matchmaking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a very satisfying unit to use. An easy one to use as well, which is a good pairing. Feels good to use, it's easy to execute, you know. You feel good helping your team out. Never does the most damage, but it's not about that. It's about creating opportunities for your team to succeed. We see here, it's a pretty heavy split over towards this A point here, with only 5 of the heroes of OSIU deciding to attack this B point, just slowly whittling away at the doors, and obviously the breach as well is soon to come after. But a huge switch actually coming out here. This is exciting, coming from that A point for OSIU, going straight over to B. It's going to be quick. We just see if it really is quick enough, as we see a lot of cavalry coming through, trying to pull through that breach, obviously.
Yeah.
And ING really aren't responding too fast either, so this might actually be a good opportunity for OSIU to get this B point quickly.
Yeah.
Really does depend on how quickly ING is able to call out, hey, they've just completely swapped sides, let's get over that.
Okay, for now, ING, they start to get to the point B. And it seems like OISU, they just kind of hesitate and do some testing over the point at the gate near the point B.
Yeah, obviously they can't see what we can see, so that makes it a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see them go straight into that point. It seemed like ING kind of weren't actually prepared for that kind of strategy at all. They only had a few people over here in B, obviously a few important units with those halberds already, and a hussar being tucked away for a flank. But it really did feel like that was a good little opportunity for them there. And what we can see here, though, is that we can see ING is really aggressively taking the fight to them. They know that that gate is like not even really down yet. They haven't got any kind of presence there, and they're trying to probe at that breach now, trying to see if they can push through, get any kind of unit staggers through, as they're killing a full medallion unit for free, essentially. And a double fake is coming back around now for the A point now. We can see, obviously, they set up for that B point, hesitated, or at least maybe it was a feign for a hesitation, And now they're trying to pile into this A point, seeing if ING can really keep them on their toes.
For ING, they got really well prepared and already set up so many artilleries around the point 8 and keep using mortars to shoot at the attackers. Really doing some extra damage.
Yeah, a really important factor here is for OSIU to really identify just how much artillery is already in place. You see there's only 3 left, the defending side of ING. They've invested incredibly heavily here.
Yeah.
Maybe that was essentially the intentions of faking out that B point, and if it was a stroke of genius, because now ING are going to be left with a lot less to defend with when it comes to those final points if they can take it there. It's a great trap comes through.
First blood.
Another dangerous looking trip coming through here as well. Gonna have to see if it actually does land, as it absolutely does and connects hugely. It's a big swing for OSIU's favour, as I like this flank around the back as well, making sure they're probing any kind of weaknesses that ING might have.
More reinforcement from the defender side, ING send more coverage to the point A and trying to nail down those attackers back the defenses.
Yep. I really like this approach from ISIU. I'm very pleasantly surprised by this strategy. It's not one that we've seen implemented, I don't think, at all. But them pushing them on both sides here of this A point is really stretching them thin. You can see here they're not able to use a lot of that artillery they've already invested, as the A point is getting captured now. It's up to ING to try to take it back. Now it really is a race for time here as well, so you really need to get set up. They need to have those halberds, they need to have those medals set up and protected as well. Because we can see a huge flood of reinforcements coming through for ING from that initial supply point over at B.
Whoa, those two sides, they notice each other's first move and keep just charging at each other.
Huge value coming through from those grape shots as they're setting up as well. It's down to 12 artillery for the attackers, 2 for the defenders. But it really does feel like OSIU are investing smart. It's just down to the hero fighting now to see who pulls through.
So I believe the attacker, they are really soon to get over and capture the point A.
What's interesting here is we see ING just opting into fighting this on A. It's not very common. We usually see a pretty quick retreat. But now they're fighting in front of the grape shots of OSIU, and you can see here they're doing a lot of damage.
Yeah.
A walk in the park.
There's a little bit of an optimistic trev there, but we'll see if it pays off. As we see a lot of the OSIU members having to regroup now. They are quite a bit down on unit count again. Down to 650 versus the 951.
Yeah, it's kind of
the defender's side.
Kind of a large gap, especially when you just have captured 1 point.
Mm-hmm. A big factor that will take place here is the 10 artillery that's left on the side of the attackers. They're going to have to utilize them well because, like we've mentioned, it's a bit of a discrepancy here in the amount of units left. actually really like this approach from ING coming out, knowing that they've got the advantage here, knowing that they've got them on the run essentially with OSIU. They're setting up in these choke points, trying to actually choke them out of the map, not allowing them to get even close to the big point.
Yeah. Not even let them to step on the point, right?
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely, trying to tell them this is our home. You're not welcome.
Oh, nice charge by the attackers at Imperial Guards. Whoa, really quite brutal and chaotic fight here. The game came down to 1 minute and 1.5 minutes, so both two sides, they are pretty kind of excited at this moment. Must seize every opportunity they can. And for now, the attackers, it seems to be a little bit at the lower hand.
Yeah, a bit of a rough time here, obviously trying to come into the front of that wall of OSIU. Sorry, of ING for OSIU. I would have liked to see them exploit that breach a little bit, set up some artillery there and try to pull their attention. But obviously they opted into the just frontal fight, obviously thinking that was their best option. It seems like it hasn't worked out for them. But there is a cap going on the harbour, so you know, anything is possible. If this guy can pull it off somehow, it would be a miracle, but props to him if he can.
Farmers
those
fight.
Two heroes,
yeah,
going down. The farmers are the only ones left to take on the fight.
Yeah, because
seems like it might.
Both two teams, they have like know the results of the game, but they're just not willing to give up and trying to like fight back their like honor or something like that.
That's it. Yeah. Especially when we see the two essentially farmer units fighting each other with the serfs fighting those peasant farmers there.
Okay, so congrats to ING. They won the second round as well, so they will be promoted to the next game. So let's see the MVP from those two sides.
Yep. So on the side of OSIU, we see here he did quite a lot of work for himself. He took out a lot of those ranged carry units. Took out the Houndsman unit that I talked about loving so much. So rip to them, I guess. He took out the Shenji as well. He took out a lot of halberds, a ton of halberds there. So we saw a lot of them coming through. A very instrumental unit for both sides in this affair.
So for the MVP from ING side, it's called Wan Guo Honglei. Got like killed 23 models and a lot of high tier units by them. Really amazing contribution to the whole team.
Yeah, absolutely. We see there a lot of stellar performances. A lot of people over that 700 mark that we're used to seeing, obviously, is the staple of what you're allowed to bring.
Yep.
So whenever you're performing above that, it's usually a good measure, and a lot of them are performing above that metric.
Yep. So also good job by OISU. And the MVP got no death. Got no kills and 3 deaths and got 4 assists. Also amazing job by OISU.
Yeah, I really liked the adaptation there in the second. The second battle when they're on the attack on the offensive. Wasn't what I came to expect from them.
Yeah.
The previous time that we saw them on healing, they kind of tried to brute force their way through with Cav, which resulted in them, I think, winning the fight from memory, but also losing a ton of their members and a lot of their unit count. Whereas we didn't really see that here. We saw a different kind of approach for them, trying to essentially double fake out an attack on different points, starting off the A point, switching to the B, then back to A again. And obviously exploiting, trying to press ING's numbers a little bit thin by attacking from 2 different angles on that A point as well. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them there.
Yeah.
But a good competition to both teams.
Yep. It's also a good practice opportunity for both two teams. They got the chance to fight really strong teams with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially speaking on the Asia servers, or the Frontier servers as they're known.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to see the new kind of stuff that the China mainland servers are coming out with.
Yep.
So getting any kind of experience playing with them is valuable because it's a different approach to the game for the most part.
Yeah, so we see a lot of really more intense fights in this time CBL, because this time CBL we got like Asia division and also China's mainland division. So all teams from all regions, they got a chance to fight with a lot of new members and new professional players and experience the new strategies. Really a good lesson for both two sides.
Yeah. And even speaking on that, we had obviously the European champions with SSR showing up this season as well. And they had great series themselves, obviously falling victim to BOD just recently. But every single game with them has been exciting. They brought brand new units into the meta as well for them. I know that one that Legolas commented on and kind of captured my heart a little bit was Javelin Sergeants. So I was a big fan of seeing that unit. I haven't seen that unit for seasons brought into competitive play, so seeing that brought there was pretty cool. So yeah, I'm really loving seeing all these new kind of servers bring their own unique touch and flair into the competition.
Yes, but it's it's kind of sad that SSR just got knocked out yesterday. So maybe next in the future we will have like more teams from our regions come to join the show again. So I guess we can take a 10 minutes break, and guys, please stay tuned, and we will get back soon. And thank you, Josh. We will start the next stream really quickly.
Too easy. See you then.
See you. Hello guys, welcome back to today's second round between BOD and the BZZW. And we have Josh, the professional team player from EC Ecliptos. Hi Josh.
Hey.
Yeah, thank you for bringing us the professional host and narration. Really appreciate.
I'm more than happy to. It's always fun to kind of share any kind of knowledge that I have and pass it down to players that aspire to be either CBL quality or just improving the game in general.
Oh, thank you. So for the game 2, BOD and the BZZW. So BOD, they will be the attacker first on the map Hilong Field. And now it's the unit ban picked stage. Oh, they banned Haberdius and Milonos. And in the first game, ING they just banned a lot of shared units, so that also give the OISU the disadvantage.
Something that I actually love here from BOD that I didn't actually expect at all is that BOD traditionally have really liked the Harbour City map. They've used it a lot, and them obviously choosing to ban it out here might be a sign of respect for BZZW, identifying that they might be a bit of a threat on that map. So let's take it to Huling, where we're going to beat you there, hopefully.
Yeah. But actually, BZZW, they are also really good at Hilong Field because I believe in yesterday's match, they won the game with YS in the map Hilong Field. Yep. So I believe they must be really practiced as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Being one of the staple maps, you'd kind of expect it to be the case. They're pretty well versed on most maps. But I feel like BZZW might be a team after your heart, after all, because obviously they do favour a lot of that cavalry, and using them on Huling is a good map for it.
And one fun fact about BOD, they're kind of a new team, but also a really veteran team because they're kind of a branch team from CNC, so they have a lot of really professional players. So that will be also a challenge for the BZZW. BZZW, also a team from China's mainland.
Mm-hmm. And just speaking on BOD, obviously, talking to their expertise and obviously some lack of experience as well. I know, at least, I'm sure Legolas will correct me if I'm wrong about this, but if I remember correctly, the shot caller from BOD is actually quite new to shot calling in this kind of capacity. And he's made some really interesting calls that I've really loved seeing so far. We've seen some really interesting baits. We've seen chances where it looked like they were almost doomed because they didn't have the right units left, and he's kind of salvaged the situation with a smart call. Essentially, stuff like coming down the ladders just to go up the other side of them was a really interesting strategy that we haven't seen many teams at all use on those staircases at Harbour City. So it'll be cool to see what he has impact here.
Yeah, it's kind of really fun to see because we have so many times CBL and always a lot of teams they chose the Harbour City and Hilong Field and Wolfwood, but we always got the chance to see so many new things and new strategies being developed in those maps. That's also kind of a really the joy part in CBL.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I've even mentioned I'd love to see in the future if it's possible, as well as randomized maps between the pool. I'd really like to see our teams adapt to maps on the fly when they obviously see bans, and taking that to an extra extreme, which might not be to everybody's taste, but it sure is to mine, would be an interesting new take on it. Pretty interesting as well to see here coming out of BZZW. They've identified that, hey, we're going to take out a lot of those carry units. They've banned out the Martel Law. They've banned out the Zerkelian Militia to try to take out those kind of real important carry units. And BOD identifying that has guaranteed that those Siphonaris are coming through. The Flamethrowers obviously being one of the staple units of that map. Really instrumental for pushing onto the points on attacker side and really good for chokes on the defender side. So opens that unit up to a lot of possibilities here.
So for BOD, they still got the time to choose the last unit they want to ban.
I actually almost wouldn't be surprised if they just leave that vacant here. A lot of teams have chosen to leave that last one vacant, obviously just saying, hey, we want as many options as we can get towards the end.
Yeah, because at this ground, so many ranged units and also infantries got banned at this moment. So maybe more options will be a better choice.
Yeah. Something that I'm always surprised to not see banned is the Hussars, because we see a lot of them being used on the side of BZW. I feel like that might have been even a good little target ban there. But if BOD are comfortable with what they've got here, I can't fault them for it. Something else that will be interesting to see as well is we haven't seen too much of this. We saw it a few times in the opening days of the elimination phase. We haven't actually seen many people successfully do the only base defense. That was a pretty relevant strategy from what I heard in scrims and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we haven't actually seen it used to good effect yet in the actual live games. So it'll be interesting to see if any kind of team tries to pull that out, see how it goes there.
And just like you mentioned, the BOD, they have brought a lot of excitement and new things in this time CBL. And yesterday, I believe BOD, they just won the match against the SSR, the champion from our Euro American servers. So BOD, they must got really got something. And so for BZZW, they must be really cautious and yeah, we're just really looking forward to the coming battles.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting to see if they learned any kind of lessons from those close series with SSR, as they were very, very close every single time they faced. But they produced great matches, took it to a field battle a couple of times as well, which we love to see. I'm always a fan of fields.
Yeah.
So
field battles.
Hopefully there's more of that. Now, obviously, having a favor for Cav yourself, is that something you really like seeing as the field battles, or are you more of a siege enjoyer?
Actually, I prefer. I actually find that both two modes, they got different enjoyment, because in siege you always find teams, they have new strategies and that can bring you excitement. But in field battles, it's kind of a different way of enjoyment, because we have seen so many amazing battles. Because the results just kind of changing in the last minute of the battle. So especially in last time CBL, I remember the team GNG and another Japanese team, they just had a really amazing fights in the field battles. So yeah, I actually enjoy both. But especially for field battles, because we're kind of not really often to see them. So I believe players they actually find the field battles also very fun.
Yeah, really fun to watch. I mean, something that I would point to when it comes to those field battles is that with the traditional siege style of battles, you usually come in with a game plan ahead of time. You usually come in with an agenda. You try to force that, essentially. We see a lot of the good teams can adapt on the fly, but a lot more of the teams towards the lower end of the bracket, without any disrespect, because obviously they're doing a fantastic job to get here in the first place.
Yeah.
But even those teams, they seem to have a very rigid game plan. Whereas when we see the field battles, it's a lot more open to flow. A lot more of them will have to change up the way they play, because it is so much more fast paced than the traditional siege is. So it's fun to watch.
Yeah. So it's more depending on teams' cooperation, not those rigid plans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we see obviously team coordination works a lot in sieges as
Yep.
well, but in field it's a completely different thing. Because 1 second of losing your cohesion in field really can cost you that double point capture. When
Yeah.
that happens, obviously your base is open to being captured, or for them to just hold it on until the end of the game.
Yeah. For Ecliptos, and I believe also a lot of teams, they participated in the CBL, and the most they practice is actually siege battles, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's almost every single team practices mostly siege. Because obviously the plan is, hey, we're going to take it to a quick 2-0. We're not going to make it go to a decisive kind of split decision between that field battle. We're just going to try to eliminate them. So whenever you see a team that isn't well rehearsed in field battle, you can kind of tell. So everybody has to kind of scatter it in through their practice. But BOD actually, speaking of, is one of the teams that gets credited a lot for their very, very inventive strategies when it comes to field. So it's always fun to see them make it there.
Yeah, and actually we have seen a lot of interesting stories happening in field battles, because we have seen teams, they are not really practiced in the field battles, so the results of the field battles can always be really funny to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of scrambling, a lot of disorganization usually compared to the other alternatives. So it's always funny and fun to see when teams are going through that, how they try to battle through it. As we get into the second game here now, the first game now, starting between BOD and BZZ.
Yeah, the round one for BOD and the BZZW. The game is about to start. Okay, so for BOD, there will be the attacker first. Wow, and you see the hero lineup, a lot of Pike heroes.
Something else that's interesting here is we see a lot of 5-4-2, obviously that meaning just bringing a gold unit, a purple unit, and a green tier unit.
Yeah.
BOD are one of the teams we've seen utilize the most amount of green units out of anybody. I was fixated there on the third member from BZZW for a second, as he had a full lineup of peasants and green javelins.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that he noticed that, which obviously he has now. But BOD has been one of those teams that really does utilize a lot of those green units. We can see there's the Corteliers, if I'm not mistaken. We see a lot of Pike Militia, knowing everybody, I feel like, knows that unit's one of the most staple units to teach new players to learn with, because it's so effective with its veterancy line. But a completely different approach to the game that BOD seems to be bringing from most other teams when it comes to the unit composition.
Okay, so Hilon Field again. The BOD, the attacker first. Quite a typical start, going for the point A and B in the same time, trying to seek some opportunities.
Yeah, we see it quite often, especially with this almost exact number split with the 5 members from BOD on the side of B. Trying to probe for any kind of weakness, make sure that they're spotting it. You can see already up on those walls is a longbow player and a shortbow player just kind of plinking away at the units. You can see a couple of them are already died. That's really good value for how early on it is in the match.
Yeah, they're just really taking every opportunities.
Yeah. And as a melee player myself, I usually play heavy classes. It's almost a little bit blood boiling when you go through that experience yourself. I know that a lot of players, when they're trying to move their units, they just see the archers up on top of the wall. It almost kind of inspires you to try to charge up after them.
Yeah. Me also, as a glaive player, I kind of get jealous when, those ranged heroes, they got a chance to do some extra damage when the heroes are not really get close to the walls.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I've been drilling, as many people know him, Rice or Rasace for quite a while about his musket play. Because I've always played traditionally melee classes, so it's always a funny point of contention between the two of us as well.
Okay, so the attacker, they are seeking opportunities near the point B.
BOD are taking a pretty slow approach here. They're just setting up their artillery, trying to probe for any kind of weaknesses. A lot of the time, this kind of artillery will be placed and used almost purely for scouting. You don't expect a whole lot of damage as you see these shots coming over.
Yeah.
They're not really in a great position to do a lot of damage. What they can do is they can tell you exactly what's behind those walls, how many of them there are, where the artillery is. Really important info to relay onto your team captains.
Yeah.
Bit of a fight breaking out here over on the B flank as well on this breach. You see a Treb coming in, quite honestly missing a fair bit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But a lot of cap coming through here as well to try to mop it up. Actually, a super interesting unit, sorry, I didn't even spot this in the menu, was the Janissary Huckbadiers as well over there. You can see them plinking away. That's a blue unit, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 195 leadership from memory. Could be wrong about that one. I haven't seen that unit used in a while. But it's a very hard-hitting unit. Fires quite quickly after it gets its buff, is setting up and standing still. And you saw it actually doing a fair bit of damage there, considerable for the amount of leadership that is being brought. Obviously we see a simultaneous attack going on at A as well, just like we said, pretty slow. But now we can see a couple of units rushing forward, identifying that there's not a lot set up here and trying to punish it.
A walk in the park.
Oh, really nice move by the attacker. They just send one force to stop the reinforcement coming from the defender while, you know, just start to capturing the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming out of BOD, coming out of CNC, both teams obviously linked. You see a lot of players coming out with their dual blades, sneaking onto points, capturing them when they're not attended to.
Yeah.
I actually really liked what you mentioned, the task force being sent to B. Essentially just hid in that little alcove there, shored up that gatehouse and held out for as long as they could to try to pull as many people away from that A point as they could. And BZZW doing a great job of mopping this up though, as we can see a grape shot getting sent up here. This one's very punishing if you can't handle it. I'm not actually sure if they can shell it with anything except for that blue mortar back there. It's going to get a lot of damage done if it's just left to do its own will.
Yeah, you see like several heroes from BOD side trying to destroy the grid shops by the defender.
It's absolutely the right call. Making sure that those grape shots aren't firing is the most important job you can have for most of the classes in the game.
Also send a champ. Also send a champ.
Great play there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was about to say, great play there also from the dual blades tying up that unit, trying to dive the artillery. It almost actually transferred into a kill there. Unfortunate for him, but it did. Very scrappy fight going on right now. Could go either way at this point. We see a lot of cap flooding in from both sides from BOD, a really good flank actually.
Yeah.
But now they're kind of caught in this choke a little bit, where you see BZZW being a bit cheeky, using the artillery of BOD against them, jumping on those grape shots behind them, firing into their backs, and being a threat.
A walk in the park.
And you see those coverage from BOD. They actually could have like charged with great damage, but you know, really smart and nice by the defender. They just kind of like narrowed them down, so they can't really have an open terrain to attack and do the charge. So also BZZW, they nailed this wave of defense.
Yeah, it seems like BZZW are very well practiced on this map and how to control these chokes. They're setting up a lot of units of halberds, like we talked about multiple times at this point. And they're guarding them with those lower guards. I even saw an Imperial Spear Guard there as well. Really tanky units to try to tank a bit of the brunt of the damage. So the halberds can come through with that stun, with that multiple hits, and really chunk through that cavalry.
And then you can see the units they left for the BOD. They only like have 24 high tier units left when the defender side they got like over 100. And the time is limited to 1 minute, so it's kind of difficult and tricky for BOD to take down the following points. Wow, really nice charge by the defender side.
Yeah, absolutely. Playing through what's mainly just green units there for the most part, getting into those Shenji, which are the most important unit on the battlefield for them to shut down. They've done a great job of doing that.
Yeah, really nice cooperation by those ranged units and cavalries.
Looking a little bit rough here from BOD, but something they've done well is they've identified, hey, listen, we're really struggling here. We're going to place down as much artillery as we can as they're down to only 10 net remaining. You can see it might not be enough to tip the scales in their favour.
Oh, really pity for BOD. Get kicked out outside of the city again.
And something I'm seeing coming out of a lot of these Chinese mainland teams is we see a lot of monastic knights, something that we don't really ever see in the Asian service. It's a unit that's pretty well held in regard of being a lot of people's favourite looking unit, but not their favourite performing, but it seems like these teams really are able to utilise them well.
So congrats to BZZW, they won the first game against the BOD, so the MVP from BZZW is Lai. Got 3 kills, wow, and a lot of damage to the enemy's units. Killed over 100 troops.
Yeah, great performance coming out from him. A lot of those are the halberds, the most important unit that we've talked about so much, the most instrumental unit, shutting down a lot of that cav. So him neutralizing them really did allow them to hold on to that point, make sure that their cavalry was being a lot more effective than the side of BOD.
Yeah.
Okay, and on the side of BOD, obviously we have a pretty stellar performance from their top performer here, having the 1,000 points of leadership damage, which is pretty impressive, almost 1,100.
Wow. Yeah.
Especially in obviously the losing side of that exchange is quite impressive to perform as well as he did. He shut down 20 of those Shenji, shut down a lot of the Fortebraccio, a lot of those halberds, and a lot of loyals.
Wow, that's a great contribution to the whole team and a huge damage to the opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. A stellar performance from him. It's hard to perform that like that when you're on the losing side, let alone the winning side. So props to him for performing as well as he did.
Wow, so the previous game is kind of unexpected. So BZZW, they won the first round against the BOD. BOD is kind of like a branch team correlated with CNC. So, but they also did a quite amazing job against SSR yesterday. So I believe they got a chance to fight back in the next match.
Yeah, absolutely. With the unit bans that have come through as well, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that a third game is needed on that field battle that we're both hoping for secretly. So it'll be fun to see what they have to bring out to the table here. Obviously, they allowed their Siphonaris to come through, those flamethrowers. Those will have to be the game changer for them to obviously take this into the third game, but it's exciting to see. Something that I've found really fun to actually see as well is with this new, obviously, ban and pick phase coming through in this season. Seeing the Martello Torre taken off the tables, like those Carcanetic as we affectionately know them on Frontier, them being taken out of the equation is a really, really big deal. I know for Ecliptos, they were pretty instrumental in a lot of the strategies we had, and it's very, very broad that a lot of teams respected and used them fastly. I mean, they're one of the most extensively useful units, incredible at taking down siege artillery, really good at shooting into chokes to shut things down, can even stop cav charges as well. Any kind of utility that you want from a unit is basically there. And it's got the long range to provide that kind of fire from a distance. The only factor that you have to worry about is obviously people diving them. But most teams seem to be opting into banning them, actually. So it's been cool to see how they have to adjust to not having that tool at their disposal.
Yeah. Actually, in the unit ban pick stage, me not as a really professional players, I actually can't see that much of unit choice and strategies from just banning like one unit. So really glad that Josh can, help all players and also me to understand the game better. Really appreciate Josh help. Sorry.
You're okay. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously made it really fun to watch, because when we see games like I think the original game that I quote every time I seem to cast was the game with CNC, where they banned away not only the Falconetti Gunners, but also, as I heard the Chinese mainland call them, the Golden Farmers as well, the Martellatore. I can't even remember an Italian now. Yeah. But essentially trying to disable any kind of siege crafts from reaching the walls. It really has been interesting to see how they adapt their strategies to take into account, hey, we're going to take these units off the table.
The Studio Boss 2 teams are get ready for the Game 2 BOD from BOD from our Asia division and the BZZW from China's mainland server. And the BZZW, they have most audience might not be familiar with them, but they have already proved themselves in the previous battle. Really amazing defense by them.
Yeah, something they were showing to be really adept at there was really holding the lines. A lot of teams kind of crumble when their front lines are pressured as hard as BOD was pressuring. A lot of grape shots, things like that. But BZZW did a great job of not only holding out for long enough, but making sure that those reinforcements were hitting their mark with those charges that were coming through that were so important.
And we have seen so many strategies in the map Hilong field. And like BZZW, they as a defender, they just stick to the point A and B. But in previous CBLs, we see teams, they just abandon the point A and B. They just stick to the point C and destroy the champs from the attacker side. So for Josh, what kind of strategies do you prefer in the map Hilong field?
I mean, I'm personally a big fan of faking out the same way that we saw in our previous series just now, earlier today. I really like the idea of stretching your opponent thin, trying to pull them back and forth and seeing how they react. I think it's a really good way to gauge out how responsive they're going to be further down the line as well. Because if you can find out that they're slow to rotate, you can exploit that heavily when it comes to that C and final point as well, which is really important.
Yeah, it's like a really professional and play like a master. Actually, I just defend all the points I can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always fun to I know everybody has to, obviously, when they come to this kind of format, has to take it really serious, really strategic. But I know a lot of people have a lot more fun when it just comes to cranking down a siege game. Just trying to push whatever side your team's on and just try to do your best as well.
So for the lineup from the BZZW, they are now the attacker, and you can see the unit choice. They brought a lot of them choose the 4-4-4 lineup.
Yeah, a lot of 4-4-4 lineup actually here. And also an interesting unit coming out is those Men-at-Arms. A unit that we've seen a couple of times now. I actually can't remember if it is out of specifically BZZW, but it just may be. But I haven't really seen them be utilized too well yet. It'll be interesting to see if they can try to pull something off here, as they are one of the fan favorites, I know, from personal experience. A lot of people love that unit historically, so it's cool to see them being represented here along with the Monastic Knights, which kind of fit into that same category. heavier investment here over onto this B side than we usually see as well. We see a lot of units set up here already, and not a whole lot of range units on the walls to respond. We see 2 muskets coming up on this boyer point, which are really, really good at shutting down that initial push.
Yep.
But if you're splitting between both the entrances, it's quite hard for them when it's only 1 per entrance to kind of slow it down, shut it down. The units obviously keep our eyes glued on over here is over near this middle bridge. You can see the flamethrowers are down there, the Siphonaris set up trying to be in the middle. It's really important so you can move to react to whatever side's getting pushed, and we see a huge push here mounting on the side of the breach, or at least assuming that it is, unless it's a fake here. Like, it seems to be indicated that it might just be by that poleaxe swinging sides.
Yeah, really nice position of the defender Siphon.
Something else I really like to see here as well is you see with on the side of BOD, obviously both those musket players are working together well. I mean, as much damage as a musket bomb does, as much damage as caltrops can do when they're set for a while. Obviously, when you're working together, it helps a lot to actually force those opponents out of that position, because nobody likes getting bombed twice by a musket player. A little bit of an unconventional setup position here for BOD on the side of A. Not quite what we'd usually expect to see. They were obviously setting up in front of the gatehouse initially with a unit of Imperial Spear Guards and also those Fortebraccio, but as you saw, they got hammered there a little bit by the Trebs and Mortars, and they are like moved into like what we'd expect to see out of those units being positioned.
Yeah, and unlike teams in the previous games, the attacker, BCCW, they just, they group up and go for one point, and another point tries to seize opportunity by, keeping mobile. And now they go for the point A.
Yep. Something I love here is really smart from BOD as well, is those defenders were holding up on top of the walls rather than a lot of them being downstairs, and that means that they can actually switch over straight over to this A point and fight for this breach, as you see now. But unfortunately, they've thrown away those Shenji already. Seems like they were caught a little bit out of position there, and they're being dove by 4 different units. They're going to meet some resistance in this choke now, though, as we see the Falcon, sorry, not the Falconetti, rather the flamethrowers are set up there, and they're guarded by those halberds. We'll have to wait and see how much damage they can actually get done. But I mean, things are looking a little bit dire here for the side of BOD. As we see, like, the flamethrowers are now getting dove and annihilated as well. Both the Shenji and the flamers are gone.
Yeah.
2 of the most important units weren't really projected that well in the end.
So you can see that the BOD tower is trying to get back to point A, but really got stopped by the BCW's really close infantries.
It's kind of the threat of obviously bringing quite a bit of cav. As you can see there wasn't a lot of infantry to actually tie up the enemy infantry on the attacker side in time. So that cavalry's basically just gone unanswered into the front of pikes and hasn't got a lot of work done for itself.
So are now capturing the point A and B at the same time.
Yeah, something to note on the side of BOD obviously is that they haven't used a lot of their artillery at the very least. Important for them here, trying to hold on to the seals and down almost 200 of them.
Yep.
the Chinese mainland are coming for this underpassage here.
Yeah.
We saw it in the ING match just before. You see there's quite a bit of artillery that's going to be set up here for the defender side, trying to defend and repel this.
And one thing you mentioned is quite fun that a lot of China's mainland team, they prefer to go, from the downstairs, because we see a lot of Asia Division's team, they prefer to capture the supply points near the coast side first, and then go from the, by using cavalries and to go near the point C.
Yeah, something that would be really interesting to me is seeing these kind of strategies brought up against the top teams in the Asian division, because something that comes to mind is in a game where we had YYY, the team on defense, we saw this exact strategy being put into place where they have a few people up here on the revolve, so it'll be interesting. Well, as we see a Trev also finding it marked. Now mortars being placed down, shelling their artillery.
So for the defender side, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the count hasn't actually gone down for the tier 5 units on the side of BZZW, which is quite impressive in and of itself. They're obviously holding onto the units quite well. We can actually see a unit of Huckbatiers on. Like I said, very cost-efficient gun unit. Really accurate, actually, when sniping heroes, which is something that isn't common between the lower tier gun units. So a cool little unit to bring along, as we see troublesome for them.
BOD, they just retreat to the final base, and then now the BZZW totally capturing the supply point and go for the final base.
Would have liked to see just maybe a unit or two of those pike militia, the cheap greens, just used there to try to tie them up by a little bit more time for the team to get that unit out of there. Actually a smart call here from BOD as well, making sure that they notice that, hey, they're a little bit split, so we're going to try to pressure this flank.
Yep.
And when they see the artillery getting placed, it looks like they're trying to back up now, making sure that they're not just getting shelled into oblivion. And even setting up a counter grape shot, which is an interesting option here as well. Because obviously that other grape shot has the high ground.
Nice charge by BZZW. These 20 Canadians by the defender side just got cleared out really quickly.
Yeah, that's a really important unit to get rid of. Obviously, we saw them throw both their bomb lobs earlier, and they were doing quite a lot of damage, so stopping that unit from resupplying and getting new bombs to fire is really important for them.
Really organized charge again by the BZZW. They send shared units to step on the final base first and send more down to clear out the enemies trying to get close. BOD's forces kind of scattered at this moment.
Yeah, down to only those 2 units of tier 5s, now down to 1, and only the 50 on the side of the tier 4s. It really is a desperate attempt at this point to try to recapture this point.
Kind of a difficult situation for BOD.
Sure, it's not the first one we found them in, but this might be the hardest one to make their way out of so far.
Yeah.
Child's play.
That looks like it might just wrap up the series here between the two teams. As you can see, it's just kind of a funnel of mostly just farmers at this point. Scattering of a few little tier 2 green units as well, but that's all they've got.
And all the BOD have is like having heroes jump to different points. because obviously their units are really low tiers and couldn't really make it to the point at this moment.
Yeah. And obviously, even with the heroes dwindling, they've got that few as well, so they seem to be leading the battle now, accepting that it's a loss here for BOD.
Yeah.
And a great performance from our team of BZZW.
Yeah, nice performance by BZZW. And also great performance by BOD. So let's check the MVP from both sides. BZZW, the winning team, the MVP got like 4 kills, 1 death, and 6 assists, and almost near 1,000 scores.
Yeah, seeing it actually from their top 2 players there, and even a third one in the middle of the row also got over 1,000. Huge performances from all 3 players. As it's just been a good team performance, you see that a lot of the people on the bottom of the BZZW team are people that were fulfilling very specific roles. Dual Blades players usually don't place too high because they're obviously very niche. What they do is control the battlefield, backcap. They put pressure on heroes, on artillery, stuff like that. But a huge effort from the whole team, as we see a lot of the units coming through that have been eliminated from that top performer were a lot of golds, a lot of purples, not a lot of the filler stuff that we saw out of BOD's roster as well.
Also great performance by BOD, the MVP. Got 4 assists and killed like 64 troops in the game. And also a lot of like high tier cavalries and modals doing a lot of damage to the opponent team.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with how catastrophic the first points were, with how many losses they had, to be almost even on your leadership kill to cost ratio is pretty impressive a feat. So, well played to him.
Yeah, really a nice game by BOD and the BZZW. So today we have like ING, and also BZZW got promoted to the next stage of the this time CBL. But you know, all 4 teams today, they have like done pretty amazing jobs because they are already like the top 8 in this time CBL.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to be proud of making it even this far, especially when we talk about a team like BOD, like we talked about, had a lot of inexperience when it came to certain roles in their team. So them making it this far really was a good showing for them.
Yeah, and they have bring us a lot of joys, like in the field battles and also new strategies in the Harbor City.
Absolutely. I know a lot of us are going to look at them and SSR favorably for giving us those field battles, as they're pretty rare to see.
So really teams by those 4 teams, and I believe this is kind of all for today. So thank you, Josh, and thank you all your audience, and tomorrow will be the territory wars, and on Sunday we will still have the CBL streams. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've had a blast.
Yeah, so let's see you guys in Sunday. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Josh.